Hi, my name is Chris Santos, and today I'm showing off another tool that I made for Studio Point Blank, which was a cinematics outsourcing company project that I was a part of in the final semester of my graduate program. What this tool is used for is for our animators. On the project, we were making a short cinematic sequence as a proof of concept. So our animators requested a tool that is used for managing cameras in the sequencer as well as rendering out their cut tracks individually. So this is the tool right here in this window. This was made using editor utility widgets and Unreal Motion graphics for the UI that I made here. It has many different functions. First off, at the top, you can see it says selected sequence, and there's a drop down that says no sequence selected. It looks in a particular folder for level sequences. So if we select one, it'll open up the sequencer for us and take us to the sequence we have selected. And so we can bounce around between our different sequences that we're working on. The way cinematics were set up in our project was that we had a master sequence that contained a shot track that referenced all these other subsequences, which you can see here. And in each of these subsequences, this is where our cameras were actually animated. And each camera can have a section in a camera cut track here. So that's how our project was set up. And let's work with shot 3 here. Below that, you'll see a list of all the cameras in the sequencer. It says camera cut track ranges. What these are representing is different cameras. On the left, you'll see the name of the camera, and if we check it, you can see a bit better. Over here are two boxes representing the start frame and the end frame of their respective camera cut track ranges. So we can see down here, the camera shot 03 has its own section here in the camera cut track. It goes from frame 0 to frame 589. And what these sliders let you do is change the frame range of this section here. So for instance, let's say I want it to start a little later and end a little earlier. If I hit apply selected changes, as long as this camera is checked right here, if I hit apply selected changes, you'll see the shot track changed size. Now I can do Control Z to undo that change. And since I've edited it outside of the tool, I want to hit this refresh tool button so it's back to the way it was before, 0 and 589. If I had made these changes and then I decided I didn't want them, I can hit a little undo button here to set them back to the values they were previously. Or if I made a bunch of changes and I didn't want to keep any of them, I can also hit the refresh tool. You see it also says revert changes, and that will reset the tool back to like throwaways all your changes basically. Next, you'll see the second camera here is the tool recognizes that it does not have a corresponding cut track section. This is fine. Actually, what it says is it does not have one cut track section. It's expecting each camera to have only one cut section that it's bound to. So it doesn't want you to have 0 or 2. That said, you can totally leave this camera alone if you want, but if you did want to add a cut track bound to this camera, if you leave it at 0, 0, or say if the start frame was higher than the end frame, so like the relationship would be negative, it would be decreasing, no cut track would be added, and then the tool would refresh itself back to normal. But if you did want to add one, if you set up a normal frame range, so now it's increasing over time, the start frame to the end frame, you can apply changes and it will add a section. See shot 3, 2. I'll undo that and refresh the tool. So that is an option for you as well. Of course, you can add totally new cameras if you want and set their frame ranges. And you can also duplicate existing cameras. So let's say if I select shot 3, what the duplication tool does is it will duplicate every camera that's selected. So I'm just going to duplicate shot 3 here, and it's going to create an exact copy. And now if I hit apply changes without selecting these new cameras, it's going to throw it away. So let's check them and hit apply changes. Actually, I can make changes to the frame range for the copy as well. You can also make copies of copies and copies of new cameras, so on and so forth. But they don't exist until you hit apply. So once I've hit apply, there's some new tracks here. There's a track for the new camera, the track for shot 3 copy 1, and you can see here we have new camera 0 and shot 3 copy 1. You'll also notice the keyframes were copied over from the original shot 3 camera. So maybe if you wanted to mess around with the keyframes, but you didn't want to lose your work permanently, you can make a copy and work on that instead if you're just testing something out. So the duplication function is good to maintain a non-destructive workflow. So I'm going to undo that. Although I should, and I'll refresh the tool again. If I did make a copy or added a new camera or what have you, so I'll apply the changes again. They get added to our cameras folder here in the level outliner, so we can see copy 1 there and the new camera as well. And so I undid that. Let's refresh the tool. And the last thing, last but not least, is the rendering function down here at the bottom. So for every camera that I have selected, let's go to a different shot. Here we have shot 2, shot 2, 2. If I select both of these, I can hit the render button and Unreal will render out from the master sequence. It will render out the frame ranges taken up by just those cameras. So it'll just render out shot 2 from the beginning frame to the end frame, and then it will render out in a separate video file shot 2, 2 in its own video. And it'll do the jobs one after another. And the reason this is the most important part of the tool that was requested because our animators wanted to be able to render out our cinematic bit by bit, so it wouldn't take as much time before they could check to see if there were any errors, because if they had to render out the whole thing at once, it takes a long time, and then you review the footage and you see it has issues. So now they can get it rendered out bit by bit, and it's better for their workflow. So if I hit render selected cameras, Unreal's going to start rendering, and then we can wait for it to finish rendering, and we'll see the finished files. And here we can see the 2 different shots have been rendered out here. We have the sequence name, which is shot 2, and then the camera also named shot 2. This is camera shot 2, 2, followed by the different frame ranges in the master sequence and the date here. So if we open these up, we can see the final shots rendered out. That one's very short. And here's the other one. This tool was mostly made in Blueprints, but I did use Python to access the rendering API. We're using Unreal's legacy rendering system for this with some predetermined rendering settings based on instructions from our animators. And so yeah, this tool was really helpful for our animators. It saved them from having to re-render as much.